Welcome back to Reality Architecture. I'm your host, Cyrus Yang. Today I want to talk about the dark side of spiritual awakening. You know, spiritual awakening comes with a lot of good, a lot of alleviation of suffering and pain, and overall life just feels more light and it just feels better. But that comes also with the dark side of it, which I don't think many people talk about because, people chase awakening or enlightenment or consciousness or to become more aware, right? If you go on the spiritual journey that you develop the goal of like, oh, I want to become more aware. I want to be more conscious, be more awake. We won't even go what that means because that's a whole video in itself. But after you achieve, let's say, the awakening that you're looking for, right? It's ironic when I talk about this because it's like you don't achieve anything, okay? When you achieve it, you realize like I haven't achieved shit. I'm right back where I started, except I come from brand new perspective. That's really what it is. When you begin to spiritually awaken, the heaviness of life comes at you all at once. Everything feels heavy. It's like, why do I strain an effort to do all of the things that I do? It's so tiring. It's so heavy. The bills, the taxes, my fitness and health, my relationships, my money, my family, my friends, the drama, like traffic, red lights, green lights, people, dealing with people. And it's like you become hyper aware of how heavy everything feels. And this is really the test of spirituality, I would say, is a lot of people get very spiritual and then they become so attached to like not wanting things to feel heavy. At first, like life feels too heavy. And then you get to the point where like I don't want to like carry any heaviness. And that in itself can become a trap because then you just become like, oh, I don't want to do anything. And this is the dark side of spirituality that I'm talking about. Is like you develop this desirelessness. Whereas before you're running around super attached to things and people and needing things to happen. Once you start to awaken, there's this sense of just desirelessness, of not caring, of not being attached to the things that you used to be super attached to. Right? People, money, doing things or not doing things. Before it was like life or death. Now suddenly it's like, fuck, I don't really care. And the dark side of that is you're so content. You're able to be so content that you just start to like become like a rock. You don't do anything. Or you have no need to do anything. Right? But it's like, well, you're still here in this human body. Can you do things without being attached to the doing of them? And do things not from a place of, effort, but from a place of no mind, from a place of this thing is being done, but by who? Who is doing the thing? right? There's no identity involved. There's just the doing of the thing with no identity involved. Now, another quality that comes up is you become, and this is less so a dark side and more so a light side, is that you have harmony. You develop harmony with your emotions. So what I mean by this is that you feel a sense of tranquility even with ugly emotions. A lot of people get the misconception that, once you become more conscious, you stop having negative emotions. And that's not true, right? Because the same negative emotions, they come up, right? Albeit, not as frequently, not as convincingly, but they can still come up, and sometimes with great strength. And so what I mean by harmony with emotions is that you have a sense of tranquility even with your ugly emotions. So things like anger, lust, jealousy, envy, impatience, frustration, shame. When they do come up, you're not at war with them anymore. You're not spending more energy trying to fight the energy. You're at peace with the energy, even if it's ugly. Right? Because when you tap into the unconditional love energy, the Christ energy, you see the beautiful even in the ugly. In yourself and with others. I'm sweating because I just came back I'm learning how to play tennis. So there's a sense of this equanimity, this it's okay to feel things, because you know that you are not identified. Your identity has nothing to do with the actual feeling. It's just something that needs to come out through you. And you just honor that, rather than when you're in a constant conflict with yourself, you're constantly telling yourself, oh, I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't feel this way. Pick yourself back up. Behave properly. Right? You order yourself to be different than how you are. But when you come into harmony with yourself and your internal world, no longer are you always trying to fight yourself. But it's just like, okay, well, I feel angry. Or anger feels me, however you want to put it, right? And it's like, yeah, I'm noticing it, but I'm not resisting it. I'm allowing it to be channeled through me, to come through me, without being taken hold by it, if that makes sense. You're letting the storm pass. Now, the next quality of awakening spiritually is outcome detachment. And this kind of ties back to the second point I made about desirelessness, not caring, lack of attachment. You just like so many things that you used to spend your energy worrying about, you just don't care about anymore. It's like, oh fuck, like that's fucking frustrating. Like, I can't believe that fucking happened. Oh my God. But it's like, well, it is what it is. You know what I mean? It happened. I'm gonna deal with it the way it is. I'm gonna just meet it for what it is, right? When you take your actions, stop being about, okay, I have to do this in order to get this outcome. It's more so like, okay, I'm gonna do this because, yeah, I just want to do it for no other reason. So it's like life begins to become self-fulfilling because you're no longer chasing life. You're just living life, right? because from the state of like, I'm not good enough yet and life isn't good enough yet, this like constant insecurity in that state of like you call ego, whatever, you're constantly chasing after life. It feels like you don't have enough life, right? And I'm referring to don't have enough life as in don't have enough money, don't have enough love, don't have enough attractiveness, don't have enough confidence, don't have enough joy, don't have enough peace. So you're constantly chasing it. But the whole irony is that like the more you chase it, the less you have it, right? The more attached you are to the outcome. In an ironic way, it's like the more the outcome runs away from you, right? It's like the best example I always like to use. Like if you chase after a woman, she's gonna run away from you, right? If you chase after an animal, they're gonna run away from you. You don't chase, you attract. How do you attract? You put your hand out with feed, with food, right? And next point, harmony with others. Now, this really ties into, this is the same point as developing harmony with emotions. And also, this is not all dark side of spiritual awakening. A lot of it is good. But, I mean, the whole other argument is that you stop seeing good and bad as separate things. Like, life is the interplay of good and bad, and it's like there's no labels on it anymore. You stop so much being identified with what's good and what's bad, and you just see it for what it is. It's all beautiful, right? It's all one. Anyway, well, that was another point, actually. But harmony with others, right? Because you develop harmony with your own inner world, your own emotions, right? Having a sense of calmness and non-resistance even when ugly emotions show up, that also shows up in the way that you interact with others, right? It's like if you're out in public and whatever, and you know somebody's fucking angry, and they're taking out on you, and it's like, okay, you want to be angry with me, be my fucking guest, you know what I mean? Like let it out, it's cool, it's cool, it's safe with me, you know what I mean? You want to be sad, you want to be like whatever you want to be, right? Like I'm just a mirror to reflect you back to yourself, right? Because you're so empty of like, so this ties back again to the point of like you no longer see the world as good and bad, right? Yin and yang, good and bad, left and right, tall and short, good and evil, left and right. You stop seeing the separation in the world and you start seeing the unity. You start seeing, it's like, okay, so you feel a lot more compassion, right? Rather than immediately, people are dealing with all sorts of shit, and it's like you just let that be. You got to go through what you got to go through. You got to work through what you got to work through. Everybody on their own time is dealing with their own thing. And it's like, there's nothing I can do to like try to change you. I mean, I could try to change you, but then you'll just resist me more and then be even angrier or even, right? So rather than resisting the negativity, it's you allow, but you don't absorb, right? You allow, but you don't absorb. It passes through you. Next point. You play the part while knowing you're not the part. So I like to call them NPC interactions. But it's just like, oh, hey, how are you? I'm good. How are you? That's my favorite example. It's like, I don't know why people even bother. It's because it's a social convention, right? It's like, hey, how are you? I'm good. How are you? It's like, why even bother asking the question? You know what I mean? It's like, it's fucking pointless, right? It's like, of course, you can go into your whole life story, but it's like, well, no, we don't have time for that. We're just like, I'm fine. I'm good. How are you? Right? And it's like, but our inner worlds are so much more complex, right? And it's like, whatever's on our mind is like, well, I'm just going to ignore it because, oh, I'm good, right? Now, not everyone you meet is ready to meet you, right? Because your soul wants to go to such a deeper level. But, not most of the time, you you won't be able to, right? Because it's just like, it's not the social norm or convention to like have a deep conversation off of, hey, how are you? You know what I mean? So it just really just depends on who you meet, but you become very energetically sensitive to people's energies, and you can tell when somebody is receptive and open, and you can go deeper with them. It's an energetic signature that you can recognize when another person's also there with you versus when they're not, right? So you kind of just you meet people where they are, and that intuition guides you basically to how deep of a level of conversation or interaction that you can have. A lot of people become spiritual and seek to manifest their dreams, their desires, their desires. And I think the biggest lesson in manifestation is there is no voodoo magic trick. The voodoo magic trick is you, right? It's like, I think of the book by Joe Dispenza, You Are the Placebo. You are the placebo, right? You delude yourself into your own reality. We all delude ourselves into our own reality, right? Inside of every person is a completely different universe. That's so marvelous to think about when you really think about it. Inside of every single person is a completely unique universe. Because only in their mind do they have this completely unique conception of the world, and nobody else has that unique conception of the world. And inside of each of us is that unique conception of the universe. But how does this tie into manifestation? So back to manifestations. A lot of the times, people will try to manifest things, and they'll meditate, they'll close their eyes, they'll whatever, right? Practice the rituals. That's what they are, they're rituals. They're rituals to get you to believe in a state, to get you to believe in an alternate reality. But as soon as you open your eyes, you forget about that reality. All right. I would call the art of manifestation, I would also call the art of meditation, open-eyed. It's like, okay, you sat there, you visualized, but now how do you live it? How can you live it today? How can you live it in as many moments as you can bring yourself to bear in your living life, living, waking life? Can you live as that state, as that energy? Even, without the current physical reality showing it to you? Right? That is faith. What is faith? That is faith. Living in the perfect reality. Faith is living in the perfect reality. Not because reality is perfect, but because you've made it perfect. Faith is living in the perfect reality. Not because reality is perfect, but because you've made it perfect. It's like, why did they call Jesus the perfect man? It's not because he was perfect. It was because he made himself perfect. Does that make sense? When you make yourself perfect, when you make the world perfect, and all Jesus saw was perfection. When all you make you see is perfection. When you make all you see perfection, then perfection becomes your reality. When all you see is love, then love becomes your reality. Right? How far out are you willing to live that state? How delusional are you willing to be? How much faith are you willing to have? Right? And then from that place, reality organizes itself around your energy because it becomes a vibrational match. And so, ordinary everyday consciousness becomes the dream. Ordinary everyday consciousness becomes the dream. You're no longer chasing your dreams because that implies separation. And when you're living in separation, that creates the constant feeling of lack and fight or flight in your nervous system because you feel insecure. You feel scarce. You feel in need. You feel in lack. You feel in separation. But when everyday, ordinary consciousness becomes the dream, suddenly the reality and the dream, you're not so sure which is which anymore. And this, what I would say, is the hallmark of the transformation of consciousness in spiritual awakening, is like reality and dream stop feeling separate and they start to feel like one thing. Life kind of feels like a dream, and reality becomes the dream. Right? And so it's like, well, from this dream, you can create anything. What faith will you hold to create the reality, the dream you want to live? Right? How can you live in that as ordinary everyday consciousness? Because it's your natural state. When it becomes your ordinary everyday consciousness, your natural state, when you hold that as your reality, when you hold your dream as your reality, not as separate, not in the future, but right now, when you hold that and you live it every single day, then it just simply becomes reality. That's manifestation. And it doesn't happen in the way that a lot of people try to get it, because the way that a lot of people try to do it is still implies separation, because they're still chasing something, because they feel separate from it and therefore they have to get it, they have to chase it. And so, final point about what changes in your consciousness after beginning to awaken spiritually is your relationship with discipline, with habits, with behaviors, with identity. Before becoming awakened, your consistency, your discipline, your willpower, it came from a place of not good enoughness. I'm not good enough, therefore I have to be good enough by being consistent in the thing that will make me better. There's always this inner turmoil, this inner battle, this inner conflict with yourself of like, ooh, there's chips over there, but no, I can't eat those. I have to get in shape. I'm really tired, but no, I have to go to the gym. I have to do a workout. I have to follow the workout plan. After awakening, discipline becomes a completely different relationship, because consistency no longer comes from that place of the inner battle. Instead, it comes from a place of alignment to the identity that you're embodying. No longer are you driven by fear, You're driven by inspiration. You're driven by pleasure, not pain. And funny enough, a lot of times I find myself driven by the pleasure of pain. You know, I find myself going farther and farther out to doing crazier and crazier things that to a lot of people are pretty painful. You know, half Ironman for one. Recently, I did a 3-week road trip. Well, I just came back last week. I did a 21-day road trip, and I drove 9,200 kilometers by myself. You know, it's like you just get up and do things because you want to do them, right? Not because you have to, not because somebody's expectations told you you need to do this and you need to be this way. You reclaim your entire agency. And when you reclaim your empowered agency, discipline comes from that. Discipline comes from an empowered, sovereign state of being, an empowered agency, because it feels like you. It's like, I want to feel like what it feels like to be an Ironman. I want to feel like what it feels like to just do shit on a whim, literally because I just said so. I want to feel like what it feels like to be in incredible shape. I want to know what it feels like to be immensely wealthy. I want to know what it feels like to enjoy the deepest love. And again, instead of chasing it, right, I would argue kind of exercising discipline a lot of times, the consistency, it comes from a place of chasing. It comes from a place of scarcity. But it flips the script because now this consistency, this discipline, right? Like, for example, I work out, I do some form of activity every day. I'm learning tennis, I'm learning golf, I do Pilates, calisthenics, weights, swimming, running, cycling. It's like I just rotate these, right? But I at least hit the gym, you know, like every day. Hiking. You know, it's like when you fall in love with your own life, when you fall in love with the things that you do, right? Again, it's not about outcome. I don't care about the outcome of these things. I do them because they're fucking fun, because they make me alive, because I'd be bored out of my mind if I didn't have things to do that I loved. And from that place of love, it becomes consistent, right? Discipline arises naturally without me even having to exercise discipline. I just do it. Not because I need to do it, because I want to do it, right? So you see that it's an alignment to an identity that you're embodying, right? An empowered identity that you're embodying, right? It's like, why is it so hard to transform? The biggest block is it's never the habit, it's the identity. It's the identity. Who are you being in relationship to the habit or to the vision that you want to achieve? Right? If you feel separate from it, you're always going to be on an uphill battle, trying to row up a river against the stream, trying to fight. Who are you fighting? You're fighting yourself, because your identity isn't aligned with the behavior that you want. And so the key is that you have to live as the state. You have to live as the manifestation. You have to live as the ordinary everyday consciousness of the identity, of the manifestation, of the dream, of the desire that you wish to live, that you wish to be, that you wish to have. That's called faith. You must live as that. And when you live as that, and it takes practice, your manifestations start to get super easy, because you've primed yourself, you've primed your identity to be that. If you are that, how could it be separate from you? And what's no longer separate from you and your identity and your state of being and your ordinary everyday consciousness, then you play the part of that identity, and you literally, you are that identity. And it comes to you. And it almost doesn't even matter when it comes to you, because it already is you, because you're living as that, right? So you see, it's like
This completely breaks down the notion of like past, present, and future. Everything is now, everything is present. And it's just from this place, are you living as the presence that you wish to be? I think that's a powerful place to end off. I know I started off the video kind of saying the dark side of spiritual awakening, but then I really just went into the light side of spiritual awakening, because I mean, honestly, everything is pretty light. I would say that the only bad thing, if you will, is like sometimes I find myself so desireless that I'm like, why the fuck am I not worrying about this? Like, I should be worrying about this. I should be spiraling into fear and worry about this. But I'm just like why do, and that can make me like, sometimes I'm like a little bit numb almost. Like I need to seek, I need to seek like novelty and a thrill and like challenge, or else I'm just like, fuck. Imagine living the same life for 40 years. That depresses the hell out of me thinking about that. So, it opens you up to seek a lot more out of life. It opens you up to seek perspective. It opens you up to seek experiences. It opens you up to seek interactions, relationships, opportunities. It's just your openness just becomes so much more. You become so much more expansive in your energy. And like I said, at least for me personally, my biggest like today, for example, I just felt like in the morning, I'm like, I went to the pool, I swam, and then I did the sauna, I did the cold plunge, and I was like taking myself to I was like taking my consciousness to the brink of like, oh, this is cold, like, but I'm like, dude, it's a feeling, it's a sensation, right? It's like if I was attached to my ego identity, oh fuck, this is so cold, I need to get out, I need to get, or it's like, fuck, I'm dying here, it's so hot, right? Was it because I'm not, I'm allowing the experience to happen through me without being attached to it? I'm just like, wow, I feel nothing. It's just like, and so it's like, fuck, I feel nothing. Like, fuck, what's the point of anything, right? So it's so funny because to me, I'm like, depression and awakening are actually so close together. I don't think a lot of people realize, because like literally, if like you're kind of depressed, and or whatever you would describe as depressed, it's like literally just a peep through the door onto the other room is literally awakening, because they're pretty damn similar, right? I think I should have ended this video off on that last part, or else I'm gonna keep rambling. So I'm gonna end it off. Thanks for joining me on this one. I know these episodes are kind of unstructured, but I see this is what I love is I don't like to plan anymore. And I'm saying this as a serial overthinker. I literally don't really plan anything anymore, right? If I just want to do something, I'll just do it. It's like completely spontaneously. And I think that's been one of the most freeing things for me, coming from a chronic people pleaser, worrier, over planner, overthinker, over analyzer, analysis by paralysis, paralysis by analysis person, to now it's like the shift in me is like that. It's the 180 from that to just like, I don't care. Like, I'm going to film this if I want to film it. I'm going to, well, and so you see, it's like, the consistency, it's there's no discipline involved anymore. It's just from a place of, who do I want to be? How do I want to express myself? How do I want to express my joy? And then just living as that. And then as the byproduct of living as that, everything that you want to create, everything that you want to do, everything that you want to be, everything that you want to have comes as the byproduct of that. Okay. I'm going to end it off. Thank you so much for listening to me on this one. I'm Cyrus Yang. This is Reality Architecture. If you're looking for one-on-one coaching on spirituality, fitness, mindset, psychology, you can reach out to me on Instagram, and I'll see if I can help you. All right. Have a good one, friends.